Hello and welcome to a Celtic State of Mind. It's Monday, it's the Monday Club. I'm Tony Haggerty, and I'm with, as usual, Russell Boyce and Amy Canavan, and we are going to pour over another adverse result on a Sunday for Celtic, but as we always seem to have that lovely job of discussing it on the Monday, guys, and all the fallout from it. And you'll see along the strap line, Ange Postecoglou doesn't seem too worried about Celtic's form. Should he be? Now, I was on the after-match pod yesterday. I'll come to you first, Russell. 1-1 draw, 6 points behind league leaders Rangers, 47% win rate in the Scottish Premiership. Are these the stats of a Celtic manager, or should they be the stats of any Celtic manager?
No, absolutely not. And when your neighbours are so far ahead already and you're now conceding points home and away, you're in trouble. And unfortunately, that was two puns there, by the way. But honestly, I think now the fact it's now slipped into the home form is a real concern. Like, we were maybe giving them the benefit of the doubt before that we were blowing teams away at home. Yes, there was a bit of misfortune yesterday, and another day we could have scored more. We also could have conceded more yesterday. Celtic weren't a great force yesterday that we've seen against, let's be honest, bottom six teams so far is where Celtic have shown their class. And maybe the one game at home against AZ. Other than that, there's more question marks than ever now. And if he's not concerned, like you're saying about the strapline, about the form, and he says, I think he says something about the league, or the media here saying it was weird. That's what I would think. I'm like, well, mate, you should have done your homework. Because believe you me, you've seen nothing yet.
Yeah, Amy, I think you said yesterday, you guys are quick to call things early, and but as Russell says there, he's clearly not, done his homework on the kind of goldfish bowl mentality of managing a club like Celtic. What were your thoughts on yesterday's draw, Amy?
It's another performance, another result that you just can't. You can't fathom, but you can't stand and sit by and just think, yeah, that's fine. It's just another. It's on the same magnitude as Livingston last week, and it's actually even worse because, as Russell said, even last week you had that optimism or whatever you want to call it, saying, but it's fine. There's always that, but it's fine. The home form's okay. We'll put six past them at home. All of this. Well, yesterday shows that it's nowhere near that. I know along the strap line, obviously it's hidden right now, it was all about Postecoglou's comments afterwards. They were really concerning for me. That doesn't sound like a man that's really getting exactly just how big this is. And that's kind of quite contrary to what we really first believed. When he first came in, we were really all off the belief that, no, this guy gets it. He gets it quite quickly. But to sit back and say, I think this is what the supporters want, obviously alluding to, players trying. I don't know how much trying, his definition of trying and my definition of trying is very different then. But to try and, signal along the lines of, but it's what the supporters want to see, because there was a few half-decent chances and, on one day they'll go in, one day they won't, but they never went in. So I don't think you can sit there and really say this is what the supporters want to see. It's certainly not what I as a supporter want to see. We don't speak for every Celtic fan, of course, though.
True, and Matt Walton comes in here, Russell. If he is not worried, the rest of us should be. For those who say he should not be criticised, we're not changing when change is blindingly obvious. You need to wake up and smell the coffee. Now, touched on it yesterday. There seemed to me to be three fairly obvious changes. It could have been made yesterday, but one certainly glaring, and that was Haggerty. Haggerty was just having an absolute nightmare. And I think it was typified in the sitter that he missed, and then he just kind of disappeared off the radar after that, went into his shell. I mean, there's a stat that says Celtic put 32 crosses into the box between Jota and Abada, and Haggerty was nowhere near any of them.
Yeah, I'm bored with all that nonsense, Tony. Now, that's 2 games in a row we're talking about record amounts of crosses we've seen. I mean, when did that become even a comment,
But I'm just saying that's what people will say. I looked at a winger who scored a centre-forward's header, and not for the first time. Abada has shown But through the middle, he could be just as effective as maybe somebody like Kyogo. Maybe not as fast, but, it's something worth considering, isn't it? Especially when your centre forward was so far off it yesterday and you needed a winning goal. So would Abad have gone through the middle? It wouldn't have hurt to maybe experiment with that or try it?
I think you're spot on, Tony. I think it's an absolutely brilliant point. I think it's when we were hinting at last week. Obviously, people want to focus on the comment of Cameron Carter-Vickers up top. We were talking about a desperate situation, a desperate time there. That'd be a realistic tactic Celtic are going to deploy week on week. People take things out of context too easily. I generally think when Ajeti's not on it, he looks worse than he is, because he is just one of those penalty box strikers. He misses an absolute sitter yesterday, and that, on reflection, will look worse and worse because of the result. But when he's not contributing, what does he offer? Very little. Just tell Abada to play the Kyogo role. Just say, look, I'm not expecting you to have maybe the level of performance that Furuhashi's had so far since coming in. Come on, he's sent shockwaves through Scotland, no two ways about it. But go for it. Try and do those runs, because the one thing about Abada is he has finisher's instincts. And I think you're absolutely right to highlight that not for the first time, because it was when he followed in the rebound midweek, that was instinctive, when he followed out like a striker would. And honestly, see, when I see all this nonsense about give him time, I mean, we're not talking about not giving the manager time. We're calling it game by game. When there's a bad result, the manager needs to be discussed. That's it. As for the options on the bench, post has seen that he's got no injuries. Again, I put it back to you. Ange Postecoglou has a wealth of competition on the bench that Thomas Coates would have loved to have had at his disposal yesterday. So that one doesn't really wash for me either.
Okay, Chris 1980 comes in. Simple question. Even taking injuries into account, would you rather play the last two games with their starting 11 or Dundee United and Livingston's? Ange has been outthought on both occasions. Do you agree with that, Amy? Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of what we alluded to last week. I think I just said a few pelters because I said, a Celtic side should be able to go to Livingston and win. Yeah, I completely agree. Obviously, we've not done it in 14 years, whatever it is, 15 years. But a Celtic side should still be able to. I'm not saying they are or they will, because they're not. But they should be able to, because of the plethora of players that Celtic have and the talent of players that Celtic have. You take it as, would you want... pretty much exactly what that comment just said, but how many Celtic players would go into that Livingston side, or vice versa? The Celtic players, even at a depleted squad, it's still coming out the greater. But going back to that, that original comment about the injuries, like what choices does he have with options on the bench? It's kind of exactly what you said, Tony, and Russell said, you said it great. It doesn't always have to be about the individual. Change systems, but it focuses so much on individuals. To bring Ajeti off, it doesn't need to be another striker that's coming on. I think Lawrence even touched on it yesterday. You could go to a 3-5-2. Maybe that's not the greatest way, but it could be. Then you put in Abada and Jota up front. It doesn't need to be Ajeti with one or the other. It could be the both of them. It may fail, but at least it looks like we're trying something different. You can't change something if you just you keep pressing on with the same way. So there's too much focus almost on the individuals, and I appreciate the bench is light, there's no denying that, but there's always options. If you have a bench and you're putting out options, alternative, then that means that you have options. It may not be straightforward and basic, and it might not be a like for like swap, but change systems, go 3-5-2, put two up top, be Jota, be Abada, go one up top, mix them about a bit, drop Turnbull or Rogic deeper, because neither of them were really clicking a lot yesterday creatively. But there's always options. So yes, the alternatives may not be there, i.e. a striker coming on for Ajeti, but there is always an option.
Yeah, Chris 1980 comes back in. We started the game with 9 full internationals and 2 under 21 internationals. Should be more than enough. Dundee United had a 16-year-old at centre half who cruised it. Unacceptable. Facts
are facts, Tony. The big man's on the money there. I just think as well, with regards to changing it during the match, me and you had a good conversation through the week, Tony. We were talking about, if you looked at Martin O'Neill, for example, right now, he's described as this dinosaur, and it was always about, long ball football, and, if you didn't have Henrik, what would have happened and stuff. And we had to chat about a match at Ibrox, remember? It was called Adapting, was, I think, the narrative of the conversation, Tony. Martin O'Neill went to Ibrox, I'm going to guess it was late 2002. That's my guess, roughly. And we'd always rigidly played in the first 2 years of O'Neill 3-5-2. We go to Ibrox, he puts Jackie McNamara in the team at right back, gives him the captain's armband to give him the boost because he's pulled him in from not the colds completely, but he wasn't a regular starter. And we went 4-4-2. Baffled Rangers because they prepared all week thinking this guy's only got one way. There's many ways to skin a cat, and right now I just feel that we're going to be on repeat here week on week, talking about Ange's system unless he does do some adapting soon.
Yep, Joseph Doherty, Haggerty, the abominable front man. Fair enough. But yeah, I mean, we look at it and I'm going to see something positive about yesterday, about one player in particular, Amy. I thought Jota got it yesterday.
Yeah,
I think Jota understood how that it was a must-win game, and he tried his heart out and didn't deserve to be in a losing side. But he needed others round about him to also step up to the plate and that high level of performance that he gave yesterday. So I was quite impressed with that. And moving forward, Joe Porter agrees Jota's a baller. Hopefully that turns out to be the case. But, you can't just be relying on one guy, which Celtic seemed to be, or two guys, Before the two most important players were out the team, we relied heavily on McGregor and Kyogo. And now that they're out, we're looking around. There is a real lack of leadership there, and guys taking a game by the scruff of the neck. Talking midfielders in particular as well. But just apart from Joe Hart, who's back there, I don't see many leaders in that Celtic team.
No, it's young. There's no denying that. The fact that you're really, you're bringing out Jota and you're bringing out Abada so young. Abada's 19. Jota's so fresh into really this is his first real crack at senior football. I think Ange Postecoglou said that himself. So the fact that you're going to them, you're relying on them so quickly. David Turnbull's just had his 50th appearance for Celtic, something like that. Should arguably have been so much more, obviously, if it wasn't for the injury. But he doesn't show any sort of real leadership. And this is a guy that knows the division. We keep talking about people that know the division. He's played for Motherwell. He knows these teams inside and out, but he doesn't show it. Tom Rogic has been in the Celtic side for God knows how long now, probably coming on about 8-9 years. And he's just, as you rightly say, he's not taking it by the scruff of the neck, which you're looking for then these guys to step up and do. Because you look elsewhere, Tony Ralston, as much as he always gives his all, and I'm never going to not stick up for him, but this is still so fresh really into his, this is his first real proper run in the side. And then you look along the back line, they're all new guys coming in. So you're looking to turn to Rogic, to Turnbull, to be the experienced heads, especially from within this league, and they're just not stepping up.
Lanky 67 comes in. I was at the game yesterday. We were rank rotten. We all know playing Tom and Turnbull partnership doesn't work. Haggerty, it's the same as last season. Got a few goals, then went missing. What do you say to that, Mr. Russell Boyce? You agree with that?
It's interesting. I mean, Turnbull and Rogic, Tony, if we're being completely honest, based on, as we were saying last week, we played Turnbull bingo, for example, what time he'd be subbed off. Rogic, you hung your hat on him being subbed off after 60 minutes, didn't we?
Yep.
Yet those two are the two ever-presents in the team this season. Did you know that? The only two. And I appreciate what Amy's saying, by the way. 50 games for Celtic's quite a milestone. But also it comes with a bit of responsibility now as well, that you have to step up. You now need to own that. You're a 50-time appeared Celtic player for a reason. I'd be interested to know what David Turnbull's win ratio is in the Celtic starting 11. I've just thought of that now when Amy said 50 games. I thought, how many of those has he won? And is that now the new trend you're seeing in Celtic players, and why you rely so much on a Callum McGregor, a James Forrest? Because their experience is a lot of success. That's why you go to these guys, because their experience levels are all positive ones. Whereas I wonder at Turnbull's first 50 games, if anyone can work it out, please indulge me. I would like that, because I wonder what his win percentage is. And if you've not got the what it takes experience to fall back on, really it's just 50 games in a messy period for Celtic, really, isn't it? And no wonder perhaps when it comes to moments like yesterday, as Amy alludes to, when you're looking for Turnbull, for example, to step up, they're found wanting.
Yeah, Amy, I kind of agree with all of that and what you've just said. And, you know, and a lot of people saying, oh, we're having a pop at the manager and shouldn't be and whatever, right? But I also get the point that we are lacking in personnel and that when Kyogo comes back, McGregor comes back and Julian comes back, we will be a better team. So I find that a bit insulting to everybody's football intelligence. You get your better players back, of course you're going to be a better team. But until that time, when you get the better players back, there's still the business of winning football matches. You have to do it by hook or by crook. And that's the manager's job, to pick teams accordingly, to get to win football matches, to do whatever it takes, even if you have to win ugly. The last two games, Celtic should have won ugly.
Yeah.
Or tried to win ugly. It's the lack of, I'm not saying the lack of trying, but to switch it up a bit and change it around to go and get a result. And if you've got to win ugly or get results and do it the ugly way then, or grind it out, then you have to. Because there's a team in the same city over the road who are doing that at this precise moment.
Absolutely. Just before we came on air, Paul and I were actually discussing that. People are coming in, and I saw lots on Twitter yesterday that, don't worry about it, this is a poor Rangers side, it's not the Rangers side of last season. No matter what side Rangers this is, they're still grinding out results. Do you think Steven Gerrard's really going to be that worried that, right, yeah, it was a 1-0, it was only 1-0 against Dundee, but it was still 3 points. Celtic aren't grinding out those results, and Rangers are. So you can say no matter how poor Rangers are, Celtic are poorer, they're still grinding out the results. And at the end of the day, it is all that matters. How many points do you have at the end of the season? And they'll look back and, for them, that 1-0 against Dundee might be a turning point, maybe a really crucial win because they saw it out. You're going to get breaks. You're going to, be the victim of harsh breaks as well. You're going to get injuries and some sides will be a little bit luckier. But that's just the nature of the game, especially the nature of the game up here. But it is games like this that Celtic need to grind out. It's games like this that champions need to grind out. And that's what really comes between you. You can talk all you want about, against the top sides, but it's just as equally as important. These are the games that matter. And you look at this weekend, that's both Celtic and Rangers played, both sides from Dundee, and only one came away with a decent result.
Yep, indeed. Now, Russell, Celtic next month, October, a real big month domestically for them. Go to Pittodrie, Fir Park and Easter Road. Now, I'm taking it at this moment in time. How many of them do you conceivably see them winning?
That is an impossible question to answer because it's not going to be a nice answer.
Yeah. At this moment in time,
I am struggling to pick which one I think will win. Now, it should really be what the question should be, in my opinion, even at this stage, what one do you see as potentially dropping points in, Russell? That would have been, but realistically, it's what one do you see as taking all three in? It's hard to choose. It's hard to choose. And, the players might be hiding under rocks right now, but I tell you this, he is going to need to find a way to get results. He's going to have to.
Yeah. Same question to you, Amy. I mean, do you see them winning any of those 3 games? Or is it a worry that Ange doesn't seem too worried about Celtic's form? Because you should be. A lot of Celtic supporters, should be, yeah.
Absolutely, that is a worry. And then, if you put in a performance like yesterday, or if you put in a performance game like as they did against Livingston, then you can't say, you have to say none, because you're not going to be beating anybody if you play like that. You say it time and time again that, for clubs like Dundee United, Ross County, when they play Celtic, it's a cup final, and it's the same when they play Rangers. But there's that fear is not going to be there. The same fear that's been there for the last God knows how many years. It's certainly not going to be instilled the same, because you just think you have a look at how Livingston beat Celtic, have a look at how, Dundee United got a point at Parkhead against Celtic. Other sides are going to pick up on this. You've got streetwise managers as well. They may not be the glitzy glam names, but Tom's coach yesterday went in with a game plan. David Martindale last week had a game plan and it came off. Other managers will pick up on that because they think, right, we'll use our power, we'll use our physique, we'll just go all in on their shaky defence. It's blatant on the eye. If we can spot it, opposition managers and coaches are going to be spotting it. So if the player has the players went over the last week, even against Race Rovers, there was nothing impressive about that. That was a really dismal performance. And, if Rafe were just a little bit more of a quality side, or if they could have got, Zanatta on the ball a little bit more before he eventually got sent off, then it could have been a totally different ballgame, because there was nothing there you go, wow, Celtic really want this. So you just have to watch these last few games, and sides will implement the ugly way, as kind as what we're talking about here. Celtic no longer win ugly, can't win ugly. It always has to be this tappy malarkey. But other sides will just come in the ugly way. They don't care if they walk away with 3 points or a point against Celtic. That's massive for them.
What I will say, and backing up your point, I thought Dundee United played very well. They came with a game plan, and they're the best domestic side that Celtic have played this season, because they were unlucky, because they probably should have had a penalty as well. But they came out to play. They didn't camp in and string players along their goal line. They actually came for a result because they thought there was a fragility about Celtic and they could be got at. So you can't have it both ways. You can't scream and shout about teams coming out to play against you, and then when one does and they get a point, you go off your nut. But they came to play, so fair play to them for that. And I'll just message from the boss man: subscribe on YouTube to be entered into monthly prize draws. An ACSOM jersey is up for grabs this week, and the signed and framed Bobby Lennox print is October's prize. Hit the subscribe button. Yeah, but Russell, going back to Dundee United, they did play well. You have to say that, but we keep getting back to it. I've watched Celtic now the past 3 games in 3 different situations, and it's worrying me that the manager doesn't actually know how to adapt or what to do or to make substitutions or to shake it up a bit. Regardless of the personnel, you always have options, as we've spoken about. You go 2-0 up in Betis after half an hour, you shouldn't come away with anything other than a point from that game, in my opinion. You shut up shop, you do what it takes to get a result. You go 1 down at Livingston and you watch the same game unfold till like the last 20 minutes, then you bring on 2 defensive midfielders when you're chasing a goal. And then yesterday, a second goal wins that game. You have a misfiring centre forward in a shape that's not working, and a system that's not working. Yet again, you don't do much to influence the result, or you don't do anything to go and get that result. That's a worry for me about the manager, and that's what I'm seeing. And if I'm seeing that, and Amy's seeing that, and you're seeing that, lots of other supporters are saying that, then he cannot be exempt from criticism on that.
Yeah, I think we're in fantasy land at times, when we're talking about any manager would struggle to get wins against Livingston, etc. I find that, just nonsense, let's be honest. And I think then again as well, I've heard two shows in the last week talking about points totals. One says, as long as we get 90 points, we'll be there or thereabouts. I completely agree with that. But at that stage, we were on course for 57. Now we're looking at, if we carry on this form, a ballpark around 55 points. So you can subtract 12 points randomly from Rangers' potential total at the end of the season. We'll be further behind than we were last season. This is a disaster, what's happening in front of us. Folk need to get real. He is not reacting to the environment he's in. And I promise you, Tony, all we have done is never lambast the manager personally or anything like that. And folk think you've got a problem with a 56-year-old Australian guy I knew nothing about till 3 months ago. Why would I have an issue with him? I don't. I just generally thought we have to scrutinise the appointment, work out the reasons why it happened, and perhaps I use a different angle than most did then. Now, we've got results. We've got a body of evidence now to go, can we now debate the manager? And it's not, no one's gloating about this. And certainly no one is calling for his head, by the way, either, which I think Paul's been at lengths to have to repeat this week, which I found almost disappointing, because we should be able to have a strength in our convictions of when we make a point, there's no agenda, there's no bus being driven, because if there was a bus, the wheels have came off already, by the way. And what we're watching right now is a team that desperately is going to need to adapt quickly to its climate and try and not have days at the office like yesterday. I genuinely hoped that days like yesterday were going to be saved for our away form. You now have read out the next 3 fixtures away from home, and if there isn't a sense of fear amongst the Celtic support, the majority, there certainly will be a good percentage that will be having the same trepidations I am right now.
Amy, this can be turned round. There is time to turn it around, right? And I get all that, but, you know, give me patience and give me it now type thing. You know, it has to be turned round as quickly as possible, but there's just no signs that it's going to turn round, is there? And what does he have to do to turn it around? And if you knew the answer to that question, you'd be the Celtic manager, to be fair. But
Exactly. Every Celtic fan knows that they need to start winning games. I don't think you can really maybe label it a disaster just yet. It's perhaps on tracks for that, there's no denying that. But it is still probably a tad early to maybe say disaster. But I understand Russell's sentiments behind that, you know, because it's a lot of frustration, and I think a lot of Celtic fans, you know, you've got to be able to surely catch on board with that. But I think the worry is, you know, for those who will say, oh, it's not a disaster when Kyogo and McGregor come back or whatever, but God knows when that'll be. You know, I think McGregor's like, it's almost like, oh, he'll be ready for this one, he'll be ready for this one sort of thing. I think it is meant to be Thursday now. That's interesting. But you can't just wait until these guys come back. You know, ultimately, you hope Celtic are going to be a better side when they come back. Can't really get much worse. But you have no idea what state they're going to come back in. You can't expect Kyogo to be out for who knows however many, like let's say it's 4 weeks, how long he's out for, and then he comes back. He might not pick up exactly where he left off. And if he does, fantastic. But then you can't just turn it all into that one player. That shows, you know, all of that just highlights the lack of depth, real lack of fitness as well right now. I think that has to be talked about. I think Celtic looked really, really unfit yesterday. And I know perhaps that's because you're looking at guys like Rogic and Turnbull playing more time than ever. But even then, you know, Dundee United looked like they could have went another half hour at least, and Celtic were out on their feet. I don't know what the answer is, because like you say, if I did, I'd certainly be the Celtic manager. I wouldn't like to label it a disaster just yet, and I hope, obviously, you've always got to have hope, but it's not on the greatest terms right now.
Terence Pat comes in there, Russell, you'll see that comment, Leverkusen game doesn't matter, it's all about Aberdeen on Sunday. You agree?
No, it's just downsizing your expectations all the time. You're watching it happen in front of you. You know, now it's going to be Europe's going to be a bye again all of a sudden. We're not even in the competition we were 5 years ago under Brendan Rodgers, you know. 2 years in a row we did that, and we're told to stick with the process. Well, where did that get us? We're now elite. We're in a tournament below where we were 5 years ago, on the back of hidings in Europe, and now we're second place in the league. You know, and I admit, Ange has walked into a bit of a disaster zone. And I think the word disaster, so far for me, by the way, I'll stand by it, 7 wins or whatever it is from 15. Celtic, really? Is that like, have we dropped our standards that much? That's not a disaster. What's happening here? Like, I just think everyone's expectations are slowly but surely being downsized. And the excuses are coming out. And the excuses are now going to be, oh, don't worry about Europe, let's focus on Sunday. Celtic Football Club should be more than able to handle a Europa League match on a Thursday and a domestic away match on a Sunday. I'd focus on both. I don't understand why we're lowering our expectations so much. Is this excuses for Ange? That concerns me if so. I think we have to be realistic and go, Leverkusen's going to be a huge challenge, but we're at home. We've toppled bigger and better many a time. Away at Pittodrie, everyone talked about the Almonville record last week. Well, let's look at our record at Aberdeen. It's fantastic. So there's no excuses with that nonsense as well. And by the way, on the Livingston thing, I did a wee bit of homework on that. 14 years maybe. There's only 6 or something times we've played them in 14 years.
Yeah, I've only played them that many times yet. There was a comment along the bottom of Elburn Culture saying this sounds like a show from a year ago. Well, the common denominator is that we're not winning football matches. Well, you, me and Amy, I think. We're not winning football matches. So I think that his name, I don't know how he's pronounced that, but yeah, he comes in and says, I feel like we were just to whip the crossbar away from a different outlook. I don't think the system isn't fundamentally working. We're flogging the same players and don't have the depth and the right players in key positions to produce the 6-0 results. I'm not really caring about 6-0 results. I just want to win football matches, Amy. I've got to be honest. You know,
it's a simple game. It is a simple game. You know, put the ball back in the net. And understand I'd probably be a manager then, but it is, you know, it is a simple game. It's not rocket science, and I just feel though you can't go into it just one-dimensional. And Celtic are very one-dimensional right now. It is, you know, there's no change in systems, and I'm not going to go over it because we've really, you know, exhausted the point.
Okay.
But it's just, it is quite a simple game.
Yeah, Jonathan Brown comes in. Russell, no manager will change our fate. We need a new board first. That's an entirely different argument, and I was said off air before we come on, before you come into the Dermot Desmond, the double D stood for downsizing and downgrading. You've just said it as well yourself about the downsizing and the downgrading of our ambition, basically. You know, and I get that, and we get that Ange has walked into the middle of all of this, but he's been hired as the Celtic manager, right? Regardless of the personnel and the injury and the, you know, key personnel that are out and injuries and, you know, the luck or the bad luck that they've carried, your remit as a manager is to win football matches. I'll go back to it. That's it. And you have to find a way, if you're the manager of Celtic Football Club, to win football matches. You know, you can talk about systems all you like and philosophies. The only philosophy and system is winning football matches if you're a Celtic manager. You work in style and finesse and all that later on. You win football matches. You win football matches, you know, you won't get a hard time. Or you won't be put under the microscope. You don't win football matches, you know, your record is up for scrutiny. Everything you do is up for scrutiny. That's the way it is. And another voice from our manager here saying, for anyone bemoaning the lack of positivity today, give me some positive points and I'll bring them up.
That's fair. And I would love to read them. I want to read them. See, at the end of the day right now, I've got a concern that we are style before substance. Whereas to me, it should always be substance, then add the bit of style at the end.
Of course.
You know? Ringo has a new album, that's pretty positive. I mean, good for him, man, you know what I mean? But that, who cares, you know? It's like, right now, get 3 points on the board and then put the icing on the cake with great displays. But right now, if you can't get the basics of the 3 points week in, week out, in fact, we've only won, what is it? What's our win record now? We were saying 50% last week. What is it now? 43% or something?
47. I think we've won one in the last 4 league games, haven't we? That was Ross County when we struggled, Amy.
Yeah.
Let's get results on the board first, eh?
You know, Jota was great the other night. There's one. Well, strangely, we spoke about Jota. We've already spoken about Jota, and we did highlight that was a positive. But of the one league game that we've won in our last 4, Amy, that was against Ross County, and it took us a while to break them down. And it was a Cameron Carter-Vickers deflected shot that eventually went in the net, and we eventually saw them off 3-0 with a Jetty scoring 2. Strangelove the Doctor, Abada was class. There's 2. Well, we mentioned Abada too, who were 2 players that we thought were, you know, Amy mentioned they're young players, but it's a sad indictment that we're having to go to them, you know, to say that they're the ones that are stepping up to the plate.
Absolutely, you know, and well, exactly, Hart has came in, as that comment there, has come in and he's been forced to step up. You know, there's not really been any other option for him. But a lot of the comments coming in right now are saying, you know, right, we're offering criticism, but we're not offering any solutions. Well, I believe the 3 of us did offer solutions right at the start. You know, switching to a 3-5-2. I'm saying, you know, a Yeti needs to depart yesterday. So I understand we don't have another striker on the bench, but bring on a defender, switch something up. You know, I've been lucky enough, I've seen Owen Moffat in the Lowland League, and I appreciate, you know, there's a lot of people who don't believe that the Celtic side should be in the Lowland League, and I obviously agree for different reasons, but others believe it's because they don't think the quality of the Lowland League is there, and that these guys aren't getting the test that they deserve. Well, believe me, they are, but Owen Moffat has been an absolute star, and I've been lucky enough to see him. I didn't actually see him when he played Bonnyrigg, because he didn't play Bonnyrigg, because he was still with the first team at that time. And, well, put it this way, from a Bonnyrigg perspective, we were extremely pleased. But he wasn't there because he was with the first team, because he was down in Wales. So he has been in and around Ange Postecoglou. Obviously, then he played so many games for the Beast team in the Lowland League that then he couldn't be in the main squad. But now, obviously, I'm assuming, I'm not 100% sure, but that sort of grace period is up. I think there's going to be it's a certain amount of games, and then if you play for the B team, you'll be able to go up to the first team. So I'm assuming, obviously, this first period came to an end, and hence why he was on the bench. Give him a run. I'd be more than happy to see Owen Moffat in the first side. So much praise has already been given this season to Adam Montgomery. Right at the beginning as well, Dane Murray looked pretty assured. Obviously, things didn't quite work out after Mitchland, but he was given a chance. Moffat deserves an equal chance. He is ready. He's been playing games week in, week out against tough opposition, mind you. Celtic have done extremely well in Lowland League. The only defeat they have had is the Bonnyrigg Rose, who are top of the league. But it's a tough environment they're coming up against. They're coming up against men who, livelihood sort of stuff, that they're just wanting to play football. A lot of them have, Scotland under 21s, they've had previous caps, they've been in the lower divisions of the professional game. It's tough opponents. You're talking about taking games by the scruff of the neck. Celtic have had to do that. If anyone's following, I know Lewis Laird really looks into them really well, but it's not all plain sailing. And the games that they're winning by big margins, I'll be honest, a lot of the top sides are winning against big margins. So I'd have gave him a shot. If he's good enough to be on the bench, then for me he's good enough to be in that starting 11, or certainly as an addition, as an alternative. So there's a solution for you. As we said, maybe chuck Jota and Abada up top. Tony, I know you weren't so much of a fan. Jota the other night going up top, so give Abada a go. Let's see what happens. Drop Turnbull deeper, drop Rogic deeper. These are options that we're given. Go to 3 at the back. So to say that we're not offering solutions, I think that's wrong.
Yeah, I totally agree, Amy. Well said there. And also, there was nothing to stop him bringing on Owen Moffat yesterday. Haggerty should have came off yesterday. Owen Moffat went out wide and move Abada in. You were chasing a winning goal. And Abada had scored, as I said earlier, he'd scored a centre-forward's goal. With a header. It was a textbook header, which any centre-forward would have been proud of, and not for the first time this season had showed a real centre-forward's instinct in front of goal. So that was, to me, was an obvious change yesterday, because Haggerty just wasn't at the races, and you take him off, bring Moffat on, a forward-thinking player, the only forward option that we had, and you change it about. You put Abada through the middle. So again, Amy, we have offered solutions. So I can't understand, people comment and say we're not offering solutions. We gave it at the start. That's what we said we would have done. I mean, Russell, are we talking Swahili? I don't know. Are we not making sense?
They're all too deep, mate. Everyone's too deep in the midst of they've backed and they've supported, and now the indefensible becomes our problem, and it's for us to be offering the solutions that the manager is paid to come up with. And whilst, as you say, a balanced debate does offer other solutions or alternatives that we would have used, whilst not saying it's guarantee it would work 100%. Of course, we're not saying that, but we have offered alternatives. Abada in the Kyogo role was, I think, mentioned after 5 minutes of the show today. So when people are, honestly, right now, people are, to me, are in deep on Ange, and they do not want to smell the coffee. And I am sorry, but right now what we are seeing is poor, and we have every right to criticise it. And by the way, it's a podcast about Celtic on a Monday lunchtime, which is quite often, notoriously, the day after the match before. And by the way, we're not picking up results. So that's what happens on the Monday Club. It ends up a wee bit of critical analysis of a poor performance. Unfortunately, that's not on us, Tony. That's on Celtic and on whoever's managing them at that time. And I like the comment earlier, it says this could have been a Monday Club from a year ago. Very poignant point. I find that very interesting, because I don't see as much change in this side as what other people have, perhaps, from a year ago. Well,
the only, we commented on it last week that the only managerial change was 1 in, 1 out. There's been no assistant manager has come in. You know, so we've had one in, Ange Postecoglou has come in and replaced Neil Lennon, Amy. You know, and the three of us on this podcast are not doing what every Celtic supporter did yesterday after that football match, when they went to wherever they went, to home, to the pub, to a club, to whatever. They discussed the finer nuances of yesterday's game, and they're still discussing them this week, and they will continue to discuss them until Thursday, when the team line's announced, to see what team we're playing against Bayer Leverkusen. You know, and as you say, Russ, will be watching that through the cracks in your fingers, because you're worried about the lack of results. You know, and we get all this about the personnel and the board having back the manager. We have discussed this until, you know, the cows have come home. You know, we get it. There was a lack of investment, a lack of players brought in the window. How many times can we say it? The manager is an isolated figure. We get that. We've discussed it. But we're also discussing now the fact that he's employed to win football matches. You know, so Jim, Margaret.
I thought you were going to say till we're blue in the face, Tony, and I thought he's
No, I wasn't going to say that. No, I would never use that expression. Andy's not a miracle worker. It's not the system or the tactic. It's the quality of player and squad available. He has inherited a shamble of a club. What other so-called big club has to bring in 12 players in one window and loses 15 and doesn't have a magic wand? We get that, Jim. But he has now got to play the hand that he's been dealt, and you have to find a way to win football matches, Amy. It keeps coming back to it. He's not winning football matches, so we have every right to discuss that as supporters of the club.
It's a results-driven business. You know, that comment there saying, you know, 12 players getting brought in or whatever. Yeah, we all know that happened a while ago. Now we're now in October, we're about to be in October. Sorry, it's the last week in September. So it's been the script for a while now. So I don't know how much longer we can drag this out. Are we going to keep using this narrative until January? Because you can if you want, but nothing's going to change until then. So sometimes you just got to accept that. Yeah, it's not ideal. It wasn't ideal at the time, so it's still not going to be ideal now. I don't know. There's a lot of comments coming in now that you offer solutions. Then you know, oh, you can't bring on Moffat. Well, then you didn't want to hear the solutions then. If you want, you know, as you said, Tony, the comments that are coming in that, right, be positive or don't be, you know, looking through all the nuances of yesterday. If you want to then go and start your own podcast, and I'll tune in and listen to all the positives that came out of Celtic this week, because I tell you, it'll be a really short podcast. Buy yourself a mic and I'll listen. It's tough when you come out to something like this. Everyone's saying, you know, oh, but it's the anger. We're not all getting so caught up about it. Like, at the end of the day, it's a game of football, right? I'll be honest, it doesn't dictate my life as much as it used to. And I think, Tony, you probably might be able to stick up for me a little bit here. It's actually when you enter like a cauldron like this and you enter the career that you're in, that I'm going to enter, it's quite hard. You have to take a little bit of a step back, and you've got to be real. You know, there's a real world out there. Real issues are happening. People are going through things. The three of us will come on here on a Monday. I'll be honest, first thing, all I've thought about today, not really been about Celtic. I'm trying to juggle uni, I'm trying to juggle a dissertation, I'm trying to juggle my family life. This isn't all about Celtic. So for some people, it maybe they won't like that I'm coming on here and saying that my life doesn't revolve around Celtic. No doubt it definitely dictates what I'm happening at the weekend and what mood I'll be in at work. But do I think about it every single moment? Not really now, because, you know, it's just a game of football. A lot has happened over the last 18 months. Football's definitely, when it came back, it was a massive relief. But is it the be-all and end-all? It's not the be-all and end-all.
Fair enough, Amy, fair point. Joseph McGonigal comes in, 1,300 watching, caring, and want to give their take on their team. Yeah, and that's all we're doing, Joseph. It's, you know, so it's, you know, you're allowed to be critical. You know, Paradise 63, it's all about Celtic for us, mate. Yep, and it's all about Celtic for us as well. So that's fair enough. People are, but we've not shot down anybody's view. You know, everybody's entitled to the view. We're reading them out and we're discussing them as they're coming in. And we might disagree, but it's healthy disagreement, and I think that's fair enough. You know, and it's allowed as well. You're allowed to disagree, but you know, I'm with you guys, and I feel to see a lot positive about yesterday. I really do, and I know we hit the bar 3 times, and people can cling on to that and stuff, but we still never scored a winning goal, which would have glossed over many things. Because again, I would have said then, great, Celtic won ugly. They ground it out, And that would have been a positive to cling to and say, right, let's build on that moving forward, because something happened to make that happen, to make that win happen. We started the programme yesterday, the pre-match programme, myself, Lawrence and Paul, and the three of us said, even at this early juncture, it was a must-win game. See, signs like that for me are worrying. That even so early in the season, it became a must-win game, and they didn't win it. And now, as Amy says, we're now going into October, and a month where you have 3 tricky away fixtures, and we've not won an away fixture all season. That, to me, is a concern. And if people can't see that that's a concern, then, well, we'll agree to differ. You know, I can't say that name.
F and JC.
F and JC, yeah. Okay, then that'll be it, yeah. I don't think you guys need to justify anything. We're all fans and entitled to our opinions. We're interested in your takes, and I, for one, agree with a lot of what you're saying. Well, F and JC, if that's how you say your name, then thanks very much for that. Appreciate that. But
I think you're right, though, Tony. I think maybe we are guilty of trying to justify our points too much. You know, we're just calling what we're seeing in front of us, and I actually think maybe we're better just talking about the actual what we're seeing in front of us than trying to explain why we've made a point 40 minutes ago, because it almost becomes like, I think like Eben JC's saying, he's like, stop explaining what you're saying and give me more points for him to take away and chew over and maybe come back in with a counter or whatever. That's more like it. I think, Tony, you don't have a career like you've had, big man, if you don't know a thing or two about football, all right?
That's very kind as well. AGC Technology Video says, Wenger always refused to win ugly at Arsenal, and in the end they fell into the abyss of mid-table mediocrity. Well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't ever say, we never say in this programme we're right. We just give our opinion, and people can bounce off that. Amy, we've never, you said it earlier, we don't claim to speak for all the Celtic fans.
Yeah, exactly.
We speak passionately. We speak passionately because we care deeply about our club. And we speak for ourselves, mainly, I think. And we all have different views and different takes, but some of those views and takes are the same. That's fair enough. But we're not negative for the sheer hell of it. And in choosing the career profession that myself and Amy have gone down, I like to think we know a wee bit about football. That's always up for question. People will tell me what I know about football, you know what I mean? So that's fair enough. But I've always stuck by this, and I've said, I see football through my prism and through my lens. I don't see it through what other people want me to see. And if people like that, great. If they don't like that, then there's nothing I can do about it. But I don't tell people I'm right. I just proffer an opinion, put it out there, and then we debate it, to the nth degree. And we laugh sometimes, we cry sometimes when I'm involved. That's fair enough, yeah. But you know what I mean, Amy? So I think a lot of Celtic supporters are just hurting at the minute.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's not going right after such a promising start. There's a lot of hurt there and a lot of anger, and just don't know where to vent their spleen. The board will always get it. But as I've said before, see if everything's functioning well on a football park, nobody cares about the board. Nobody cares, But now that it's not, it's kind of the wheels have come off Russell's bus, to use your bus analogy. It's just a scattergun approach now. The manager's hopeless, players are hopeless, the board are hopeless, this and that. There's an element of, just that kind of anger about it all and just lashing out. And then through that, we're hopeless. You know what I mean? People lash out to us because you're tuning into a podcast and you're giving an opinion. And the truth lies somewhere in between, Amy, I think. So
I agree, yeah, because it's tough for a Monday. It's still so fresh, it's still so raw after everything that's unfolded at a weekend. Tony, you're lucky you get the Monday that you got kind of have to be a bit depressed about it all, but then the Friday you can be a bit optimistic, look forward to it, and you get to have a good laugh, and you can, it can be 6-0 this weekend. We might get Russell's 10-0, but it's a tough game. It's trying to find that happy medium. You're never going to please everybody. I really like that. There is nothing wrong with winning ugly. I'd much rather be coming on and talking here about an ugly win than what unfolded yesterday. And I think that's really I think actually what we're trying to, go on the back of like Ange's comments yesterday that, but I think we've gave something that the fans will be happy for. I think it's important to try and find, that happy medium, really. Like, understand you want the nice style, and you want Ange implementing his philosophy, but sometimes it's just getting the win can get some of the fans back on track, and can just bring a little bit more positivity around.
I'd love nothing more to be positive, Russell. I'd love nothing more to be sitting here after beating Dundee United 2-1, and talking that up and saying, I just said earlier that we'd won ugly, and that's a wee platform and a base upon which to build. As Amy said there, that the Monday programmes after Celtic haven't got a result, they're tough. It's what else can you do than accentuate criticism or some negativity? You can't be as positive as you want, especially if they're not getting results. You said it before you came on here, you thought you were a jinx. I'm beginning to think that's the truth, so I'll blame you. But
we were talking about David Turnbull's win ratio earlier after 50 games. I would love to know how many Mondays I've done in the back of a win on ACSOM, by the way. My percentage is probably worse, honestly.
And I did like Ado's comment there that how can you win ugly when you've got Jota in the team? I get a comment through like, a wee bit of humour. That's fair enough, but I think there is an element of hurt there, isn't there? I think it's not, after the promising start, I think people were excited about the possibilities of this season, and then Kyogo got injured, McGregor get injured, and it's kind of fallen apart a wee bit, So here's our boss again, a statement. McCarthy injured, who starts on Thursday and who is backup? I
think Soro will come straight back in. I'm not saying that's the right call, but I think McGregor, judging by what Ange said, it looks to me like McGregor still might be, he's 50-50 for Thursday, really. I don't think he'll make it. I think it'll be more, we'll focus on trying to get him back for Aberdeen. And if, going back to what the earlier viewer had said, he didn't care about Thursday, just all focus on Aberdeen. Whilst I don't agree with that, I can also now see needs must on Sunday at Pittodrie. Needs must. We have to win. It's that simple. And if that then means Thursday has to take a lesser, sort of a part of your focus, and then it means resting McGregor one more match, so he's fully fit for the Sunday, so be it. I think you'd start Soro. I think Ange isn't, fazed by all our, Soro gives you the fear, right? Soro gets panned for it, and he's now becoming one of those people who he's a go-to guy to slag off. Let's be honest, right? He is the go-to. He's a headless chicken. He's choking for a booking. All these sort of terms. I think Ange is fazed by that, though, and I'll give him his due there. I think if he thinks that if McCarthy's injured, then I don't think he'll have any hesitation in putting Soro back in, to be honest. And if Soro starts on Thursday and put my house on him to get booked, I think that's a fair bet.
Amy, to use a singing analogy, every time Soro plays, my heart is broken. Soro, I just shake my head and think I just don't think he'll cut it as a Celtic player, but that's just my own opinion. Again, that's up for debate, but that comment, the last comment tells you all you need to know about Celtic supporters' thoughts on him. They just think that he's a certainty to get booked, and I just thought, and he's a repeat offender because he gets booked for the same thing every time he steps onto a football park. He just clatters recklessly into somebody, cannot time a challenge, and always then, and he does it early and then walks a tightrope, so I just that, and eat, sleep, repeat. I think that's Soro's MO at the minute, and if he turns to Soro and McCarthy's injury, then we'll see what happens, because Bayer Leverkusen are a good team and they will come thinking they can get a result at Celtic Park, no doubt about it. And your team shape is, it's depleted further, I think, if Soro plays.
Absolutely, it's a liability. There's no two ways about it. If I owned my house, which I don't, I'd certainly be putting it on it as well. It's just he just can't tackle. He's just one of these players that can't tackle, and you need your defensive midfielder to be able to put in a tackle time and time again, and not clatter the boy at the same time. I don't know. I think it was a few weeks ago. It was Ewan Henderson on the bench. I know he wasn't on the bench at the weekend, but I wouldn't mind, chucking in a bit of a wild card there. Anytime he's really came in, he stepped up. But I think this goes and shows again, the worry of the depth. I think Tony, did we both maybe write a piece on Scott? Somebody wrote a piece on Scott Robertson, him going down to Crewe Alexandra now again on loan, and he's playing really, really well by all accounts. We've all seen glimpses of him. He's had a few successful loans out, and it's now just a little bit like, that's another one that I wouldn't actually mind just giving him a little bit of a chance here. So I know that's stupid to talk about him because he's not here, but I wouldn't mind, perhaps a Henderson, a total curveball coming in, and let's see what happens. Adam Montgomery was a curveball at the start of the season, and it has worked out fairly well. Nobody would have really thought that Dane Murray or any of the likes would really have been, kicking around. Who thought Tony Ralston was going to be, other than me, who thought Tony Ralston was going to be the number one choice? I would like to see something like that. Liam Shaw's obviously still on the fringes, but I don't know how much, I think he even came in before Ange Postecoglou. Well, he did, didn't he? Because he was on a pre-contract. Maybe it's the time for him again. He's played in the Challenge Cup for the B team, so seen a little bit of him, and he's well respected down south. So perhaps it's a time now for something like this to change something up, offer a little bit of a surprise. But I wouldn't be too disappointed if anything like that came off. I'd be more excited, and if it fails, then it fails. But at least something else was tried.
Glasgow Celtic's team, Russell comes in. If McGregor returns, do we drop Turnbull or Rogic?
I would definitely drop one of the two. For me, probably Turnbull right now. I think Rogic is definitely flavour of the month with Ange. As I say, he's been an ever-present this season. Who would have predicted that 2 months ago, by the way? Tom Rogic plays every single match so far. Even by the end of December, that's still a stat that I'm trying to get my head around, and good on him. I think Rogic on the whole has been better than Turnbull so far. I know Turnbull he's scored more goals than Rogic, for example, but I think Rogic has done more in the team, contributed more to the team than what Turnbull has so far, if I'm being honest. And I agree with Underwater Cabbage Salesman. I just wanted to say that. Don't risk Calmac on Thursday. It's too risky. The bigger picture is, Calmac's importance 100%. 100%. But we've been saying this for years. He needs help in there. And I'm not convinced that substituting Calmac's 60 appearances a season and replacing it with 40 starts for both Turnbull and Rogic, for example, I know that adds up to 80, but you know what I mean, right? But I don't think either of them you could hang your hat on as starters of that many matches, even if it is still a considerable percentage less than what Callum McGregor does. I'm not quite convinced we can hang our hat yet on James McCarthy either, not because of ability, because of fitness. And his record in the last 3 years suggests James McCarthy isn't going to be able to, come in and contribute X amount of games that gives Calmac the well-needed and well-deserved breaks throughout the season. I very much think that once Calmac's back to full fitness, he'll be a shoe in every lineup, no matter what the circumstances, and we'll be facing again the same debate come April, come May. Has he been overplayed? Has his performances waned because he's started 50 odd games already by now? I think we will be left facing that situation again, because to me, between Rogic, Turnbull, McCarthy, I don't see in any of those, obviously they're taking up the other two places in midfield as well, but between three of them, 40, 50 starts, no, I don't see it.
Sean Ross comes in, Amy, to back up your point. Scott Robertson again picking up great reviews. My son reckons best player for Gillingham last season. He was only there 6 months. Now, I'm with you, Amy, and I'm with Russell. I think Calmac has to be held back for the Aberdeen game. It's too important, the Aberdeen game. You can take a hit in the Europa League if you have to, but if Ange comes up with something and puts somebody in there and they get a positive result against Leverkusen on Thursday, I'll be the first to say well done to the manager. But Sunday's game is just far too important now in the grand scheme of things, and I think if you're going to prioritise, you've got to prioritise the league. It's as simple as that. And Thursday, you pick a team that you believe can get a result and hope can get a result, and you go out there and you have a go. You do your best. But Sunday, if Calmac is fit, then I would keep him for Sunday. With Pittodrie, we need him. Every
game is a big game, and I don't want to say that then the attention has to be taken off Thursday. I do understand where you're coming from though, and I think I think maybe I would go along the same sort of lines as that. It's tough because you don't want to overlook Thursday because it's a massive game and you've got to be winning home, but you've got to be winning home times in Europe equally as you've got to be winning the home times in the league. But as you say, if you need to prioritise one or the other, then the league is always going to be the priority, so for that I do understand you don't want maybe a tough hour, 90 minutes even for Calmac on Thursday for them then to be burnt out on Sunday. They're quick turnarounds as well. And it's going to be obviously a tough test on Sunday as well. So it has to be number one priority to the league. So I think on that basis, I do agree with you in that I wouldn't be too disheartened if Calmac does maybe sit out on Thursday.
Well, that's been a Celtic State of Mind Monday Club. There's another word from our boss man. Thank you all for subscribing. We've hit 15.1 thousand subs on YouTube. Prize is going out this week, so thanks everybody for that. All this week said, having Tony Haggerty, that's been amazing. Amy Canavan, President Rascal Russell Boyce. Thank you for your contribution, guys. Appreciate it as always. And thanks everybody for tuning in.